Hi, first graders. All right, Mrs. Jenna Brandt here with another edition of STEM pre-recorded, which, we're making the most of it, everyone, right? Having a good time, the best time that we possibly can without being able to see each other. So here is the plan. I am going to pre-record a video for you that you can watch at home and complete the activity at home, hopefully with someone else to help you out, just because it's more fun that way. And then you can send me your work on Class Dojo or through Google Classroom, just so I can see what you've been up to while we're away from each other. But before we get started with today's lesson, I would like to give a shout out to our friend Landon, a fourth grader here at Hickory Bend, because he was chatting with me just a few days ago and he told me something I didn't know. Just recently, in the last few months, we had a new snow leopard that was born at the Brookfield Zoo. And he was telling me all about her. So I thought, let's start class today by just sharing, oh, this beautiful baby. Look how cute that baby is. Her name is Ahava. How beautiful is that? With that said, what I was thinking is, why don't we learn a little bit more about animals? It's one of the topics we would cover if you were here in class with me anyways. And I thought, it's always fun to learn more about animals. Every year I teach about animals, I learn something new. So let's do it. So the topic that we'll be learning about for the next few weeks is going to be called Animal and Plant Superpowers. And I like my friend Doug over at Mystery Science so much that I'm going to invite him to kind of start the story for us. And then after we learn a little bit more about animals, he is going to help us do an activity together. So no worries, though, if you don't have some of the materials that you need at home to do this activity. If nothing else, and you don't have the materials, then you can just watch as I do the activity here and keep on thinking while we're working, okay? So we are going to get started, and our lesson today is called, Why Do Birds Have Beaks? Here we go.
Hi, it's Doug. Do you have a favorite animal like this girl has here? Sometimes people ask me what my favorite animal is. And it's always so hard for me to say. I like turtles a lot, but the more I learn about animals, the more amazing animals I find out about. Like when I first became a science teacher, I got a pet chameleon like this. Now check this out. Look at how a chameleon's eyes move. It can look in all directions. And when a chameleon walks, they look so strange. Mm-hmm. Those feet they have are actually better suited for gripping onto tree branches than walking on the ground. But my favorite thing about my chameleon was this. When you put an insect in there with it, like a cricket, that's maybe a chameleon's favorite food. Watch what it does. Oh, whoa. Now let's watch that one more time in slow motion. Oh, you see that? A chameleon's tongue is longer than its own body. Now, look at this little animal. It's a fish, but not all fish are the same. This one is called an archer fish, and you've got to see what it can do. It's a little hard to tell, but there's a bug on the branch up here. Okay, watch what happens. Wow. Oh, did you see that? Watch it again. It squirted water out at the bug, and then when the bug fell into the water, it went up and ate it. Wow. Over the next few mysteries, we're going to see lots of interesting animals. One of the things I want to convince you of is that it's almost as if animals have superpowers. Some of them are able to do amazing things. Animals don't do amazing things just to impress us, though. Notice how these animals we just saw, the chameleon and the archerfish, were doing amazing things in order to get food, one of the needs that all animals have in common. There isn't just one way to get food, though. Different animals have different ways of doing it, sometimes involving special body parts. The chameleon has a tongue that's really sticky and really long. The archerfish has a mouth that can act like a hose or a faucet, spraying water in a little jet. This is one way to think about animals. Whenever you see an animal, ask yourself, does it have any special parts it uses to get food? Let's look at a few other animals and see what parts they use.
What special part does this animal use to get food? I have to be honest with you, this is my favorite animal. So you probably noticed it right away. That special part right there would be the elephant trunk, right? It's almost like an extra hand that he uses to kind of scoop his food and get it right into his mouth. Whoa, were you expecting that? Let's watch it again. Look at that. He's able to move his mouth in a way that was able to get into his food without even having to move the rest of his body. And that's really smart in the water because if the water is not moving around him, it's not going to make this little guy think there's anything there. That is pretty cool. What special parts does this animal use to get his food? Who else uses these special parts? You'll notice he's got hands, right? Just like you and I, and different bends in the hands that allow him to move and maneuver his food. Not all animals have that. That's unique.
It's interesting to watch how wild animals get their food. Sometimes it can be hard to find wild animals to watch in your neighborhood, though. But I'll tell you one group of animals that I bet you can see lots of, no matter where on Earth you live. Birds. If there's one thing birds do that's like a superpower, it's the fact that they can fly. But that's not the only thing that's amazing about birds. Think about how birds solve the problem of finding and grabbing food. They don't have any hands. They don't even have teeth. A bird has to use its beak to get food. And there are so many different kinds of beaks. Beaks like this, and this, and this, and this. Look, there's not just one kind of bird beak. Bird beaks are all sorts of different shapes and sizes. Why are they different? That's what we're going to explore in today's activity. Why do bird beaks have such different shapes and sizes? Like, look at these two. Both of these are birds you might be able to find living near you. This is a little bird you might find near your house. It's called a warbler. And this is a water bird you might find near a pond or lake. It's a duck. How are these beaks different?
Think about it. How are these two beaks different? Obviously, the color is different. One is orange, one is black. But look more at the shape of it, the length of it, where it is on the actual body of the bird. All interesting things, right? The warbler is smaller and pointier. And then if you look at the duck here, it's much wider and rounder at the end. That makes me wonder, what types of things do these two birds eat? Do all birds eat the same food?
In today's activity, you're going to pretend to be a hungry bird, and you're going to eat with a beak. You'll get two different kinds of beaks to experiment with. You'll get a pointy beak like a warbler has. It's made out of a drinking straw, but it can pinch closed like a warbler's bill. You'll also get a wide, flat beak, quack quack, like a duck. It's made out of a paper cup. The food you'll be eating will look something like this. It's pretend food, but that's okay because your stomach is a cup. You'll hold your beak in one hand and your stomach in the other, and you'll use your beak to put food in your stomach. Now you can only use your beak, no fair using your other hand to help. Okay, are you ready to be a bird?
Okay, team, I'm back and I'm ready to start the activity with you. So you will need a few things for this. And like I said in the beginning, if you don't have the materials that you need for this, you have a few options. A, you can watch me as I make the activity happen here, or B, you can improvise on some of the items. And what I mean by that is in the beginning, he showed certain materials. If you don't have all those materials, you can use other materials in its place. And I'll show you what I mean as we get started. So the first thing we're gonna wanna do is set up a little area somewhere in your house and just tape it off so that way you have that square to begin with. You don't want to sit in the square, you want to be on the outside of it. This is going to be the area where your bird can get its food. And secondly, you're going to want to have the worksheet that we will need available to you as well. So Just going to share the screen with you really quickly so you can see what that looks like. It is right here. So you'll need to have this handy as well. It can be virtual. You don't need to print it out if you don't have printer access. I'm just using mine here on my screen that I'm showing you, but I did put it in the Google Classroom in this video activity as well. So you will find the worksheet there. Again, if you cannot access it, it is okay if you just watch as I do this, okay? All right, let's keep on going. So what we're gonna do first is we are going to want to get, in this case, 2 cups. One is going to be labeled stomach, and one we are going to want to cut on either side. I have 2 different types of cups. They can be the same one, preferably smaller cups. Obviously, you're not using glass or hard plastic for this, okay? Something that is that we can throw in the end. Additionally, you will want at least one straw to have a pincher. If you don't have a straw at home, you can use a clothespin for this instead. I found that when I try to use a larger straw, like one you'd get from a fast food restaurant, it not only does it not bend well, but it is kind of harder to clasp. So that's your choice. And then for the food here, I'm going to use straws that I cut up. However, if you don't have those, some other alternative items could be palm balls. I just got these from the dollar store. Or I also have randomly in my classroom a bag of marshmallows. That's another option. Anything that can kind of be small enough that can be picked up by a straw, okay? So the first thing we're gonna want to do is we are going to want to dump the food all over our little test area here, just randomly. And we are just gonna practice. We're gonna practice using our warbler beak, that's what this one's supposed to represent, our warbler beak to try to pick up the pieces. And again, this is just practice, and we are going to attempt to put them inside of our stomach. There's no timer on this yet, we're just testing out what is the best way to use our warbler beak to pick up the pieces. And I will try my larger straw now just so you can see, but this one I was having a harder time with. Oh, of course, now it's easier. Okay, so you get the idea. So just practice that first. All right, I'm gonna dump the food back. Like I said, randomly throughout. And let's use our other beak that we just created. More like the duck beak, like I said, quack, quack, right? It closes more widely. And let's go ahead and try to pick up the food again. We'll hold our stomach here and do the same thing. Now there is a variety of ways that you could be picking this up. However, I'm just kind of struggling like that. So maybe if I try to scoop, well, look at that right there. I got 3 in 1. It's more like a vacuum cleaner, right? Okay, so there's definitely gonna be a variety of ways that you can pick the food up. I did get one there. Okay. So the question I'm having right now is, what's the best way to get the food? And there's a variety of ways, like I said, with both the warbler style beak and the duck style beak that you can get the food with, but it's definitely different for both. So which beak do you think gets food into a stomach faster? So let's go ahead and think about that. Which type of beak is going to get the food faster? Okay, I'm back again with our rocks. Now in this case, I'm using dried pinto beans. You can use black beans that are dried. Really, you can use anything. It does not have to be beans. It could be anything. I just happen to have these on hand. So I'm gonna go ahead and in my test area again, I've got my food spread back out, all the practice materials, and let's add some rocks in there. Let's make it a little more challenging. Okay, keeping it in the test area. So what we want to do is we want to try to get the food with our warbler mouth and with our duck mouth. Oops, that's our stomach. With our duck mouth. But we want to try to avoid eating the rocks. The rocks would be bad for a bird's stomach. So we want to try to get around eating the rocks. So picking up just the little straw pieces I have here. Okay, so before we can do that, we are going to transition back to our little worksheet. And we are going to answer the first question together. It says, your bird wants to eat food that is scattered in the rocks. This is a thinking question now. This is personal. What do you think? Which beak will you use to get the food? Which one do you think will get more food? The warbler mouth or the duck mouth? Okay. If you think the warbler mouth with the straw is going to be the best one, then that's the one you'll circle. If you think the duck mouth would be easier, the cup, then you'll circle this one. Once you've circled it, we are going to go ahead and experiment with whatever one you choose. So I personally am going to choose the straw, the warbler mouth. Let's start there and see what happens. So take a second here, see if this will work. And let's just draw a quick circle. Okay, not so bad. Here we go. All right. Now what we're going to do is we're going to get 20 seconds on the clock. I'm watching at my clock up there. Give ourselves 20 seconds to determine how many pieces of food I can get here. Now the trick is if I accidentally get a rock in my mouth or a bean in the beak, so to speak, I have to dump it out and start over again. I don't want to have any rocks inside of my little stomach here, okay? All right, actually what I'm going to do so I don't have to watch the clock is set a timer right on my watch here. Okay. You can do the same thing if you like. Okay. All right, we are all set. Here we go. Okay, that's it. I got quite a few there. As you can see in here, not mad at that. That's pretty good. All right, let's go ahead and count how many we got. You can go ahead and count yours and I'll count mine here. Stop watch. Okay, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, and 18. So I'm going to go right back to my worksheet here. And the next question says, how many pieces did you get? And for me, I was able to collect 18. Let's see if I can write that down. 18. Okay. Now my question I'm wondering with you is if you chose the other beak, how did that work out for you? Just for fun, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the food back and I'm going to try the other beak. Now keep in mind, if you did this activity more than once, you might even get different results each time. Or if different people tried it, maybe you can have someone else try it just to see at home, just for fun. All right, I'm going to set my watch again for 20 seconds and I'm going to try to pick up as many little straws as I can without getting rocks. Here we go. If I get any of the rocks in my belly, I've got to dump it all back out. Not that hard, but it's definitely not easy. Oh, timer went. I don't know if I'd count that. All right, here we go. Let's count it up. No, definitely not as many. I'll count by twos this time, okay, everybody? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. So I got 10 on that one. And if you remember in the last one, I got 18. So just to show you, when I did this one, I got 18. And when they did the beak over here with the duck, I got 10. So then my next question for you would be this. Let's draw a line to the beak to the food that's best at getting. So when the warbler mouth is being used, it is a little easier to get around those rocks, wouldn't you say? And when the duck mouth is being used, it's easier when there's no rocks involved because then you don't have to keep spitting them back out. And you can see the truth there just by looking at our numbers up here. We were able to get more bird food or straws when there's less rocks. Okay, Let's keep going.
Lots of small birds have narrow, pointed beaks like this. These beaks act like tweezers, picking something small out of a crowded space. Beaks like these are really good at getting seeds out of a bunch of rocks, like these crows are doing here. Or this bird, it uses its small pointed beak to pick insects off of the ground. Or check out this bird. It's a finch. It uses its beak to pick seeds off of this plant. So these beaks are good at picking small bits of food out of a crowded space. What about the other beak shape you tried in the activity? The beak that ducks have. It's a wide, scoop-like beak. It's hard for this beak to pick seeds out of a bunch of rocks. But that doesn't mean that this isn't a good beak. This beak is just good at something else. Did you get your paper duck beak to scoop up lots of food at once, like this? Well, that's what a duck beak is good for. If you watch ducks eat, you can see that they use their beaks like a spoon. They can scoop up lots of plants on the water all at once. Here are some ducks eating out of a bowl, almost like eating cereal. These birds don't mind if they accidentally scoop up some of the water too. They'll just drink that. It's kind of like how we eat cereal. We use a spoon to scoop it up. You're okay with having a little milk in there. But imagine trying to eat cereal with a pair of tweezers. Now that'd be silly. So duck beaks are good at some things, and warbler beaks are good at other things. The shape and size of a bird's beak tells you something about how the beak works. You can look at a bird's beak and make a pretty good guess about what a bird eats. Warblers pick insects or seeds with their beaks, like a pair of tweezers. Ducks scoop up pond plants, like a spoon. But these aren't the only kinds of beaks. Look at the beak of this, a pelican. What does the shape and size of its beak tell you about what it eats? Well,
big, right?
Let's watch. Here's a person throwing a fish to a pelican. Whoa, did you see that?
That's cool.
Or check this out. Here's a pelican diving its head into the water. Watch what it does. It's almost hard to believe this, but a pelican uses its beak like a fishing net. Its beak is so big and stretchy, it can dive into the water after a school of fish and either grab lots of fish at once, or in this case, you can see it used it to catch a pretty big fish. Now, what about other beaks? Have you ever seen this bird? It's a hummingbird. It has a long beak, like a straw, which is perfect for what they eat. Hummingbirds can use their beaks to reach deep into flowers and slurp some of the sugary nectar that's found inside of every flower.
And they're real small.
Now, what about a flower that's this long and narrow, though? No hummingbird could reach its beak into that, right? Well, this is actually no problem for this hummingbird, the sword-billed hummingbird. It has the longest beak of any hummingbird. Watch it use its beak to eat. And there are even more types of bird beaks you can find when you go look for birds. We'll give you some tips in the extras for ideas of what to look for. Have fun and stay curious.
I hope you've learned something new today about birds and their uniqueness, and when you think about all animals, how they're all different and how different parts of their body make them unique and help them thrive. Can't wait to see you guys next week. Have a good one. Bye.